When all your hopes are taken away and you only want to protect your own, what would you be willing to do to survive? Magneto's story is not the story of a villain who desires power. It is the story of a person who, from birth, suffered the mistreatment of people who saw him as inferior, but who tried until his last breath to ensure the survival of his species. Magneto is one of the most complicated and morally gray villains in the Marvel Universe. And he could end up crossing paths with the Scarlet Witch. Do you want to know how his story will be connected to the Marvel shared universe?
In this video, we will be talking about the 6 most powerful characters who will face Dr. Doom.
What would you think if I told you that this story has been connected since the beginning? The end of the Marvel Multiverse is coming. Are you ready? And for more videos of your favorite series and movies, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Welcome to the Oasis Geek. Before starting this video, I invite you to participate in the new giveaway we will be having in this channel, where we will be giving away the first volume of Scarlet Witch by Steve Orlando, a story that will mark the future of the Marvel Universe. To participate, all you have to do is comment which is your favorite moment of the Marvel Universe. The winner will be announced on November 30th. To understand how Magneto's story and the Scarlet Witch's story will end up merging, we must first remember the story of Magneto. Eric's story begins in 1944, when he was taken to a concentration camp. He was separated from his parents while the Germans occupied Poland. We might think that Magneto in his adulthood would be discriminated against by society for his mutant powers. But from birth, he was discriminated against because of his race, because he was Jewish, and was sent to a concentration camp. In other words, Eric experienced the worst of humanity since he was a child. He always received hatred. The history of World War II is full of horrors. And I think one of the most talked about horrors is the German experimentation in the concentration camps. It was in this camp that Eric was subjected to experiments, as a doctor wished to awaken his powers. Eric had to watch his mother lose her life in front of his eyes, only for him to activate his powers through his anger. It is unknown how long Eric was subjected to experiments by the Nazis, but this would mark him deeply, because he would understand that humans are cruel people who want power, and are willing to do anything to get it. In 1949, Eric emigrated to America, looking for hope, but also ended up disappointed in the system, and began to seek revenge on his former captors, those Germans who destroyed his family. Later, Eric regains hope when he meets Charles Xavier and creates a school for mutants. This is where Magneto begins to regain hope again. But he is sent on a mission where he meets one of his childhood captors, the person to whom he lost his parents. Professor Xavier asked him to forgive him, but Magneto only wanted revenge. Magneto comes to the conclusion that he will never find peace with humans, and that coexistence with mutants is impossible. So he creates the Brotherhood of Mutants, which would be the counterpart of the X-Men, a group of villains or anti-heroes who fought to survive and impose themselves over the human species. It seems that Magneto lived out his days searching for this superiority in his species as an attempt to fill a void, the void of living without a family. Magneto wanted to survive, but he always got caught in the trap set by the government or higher interests. The last thing we knew about Magneto in Fox's timeline were 2 possible endings. In one ending, Magneto sacrifices himself fighting the Sentinels. This occurs in X-Men, Days of Future Past. In X-Men, The Last Stand, we saw Magneto at the end of his story getting his powers back. This means that in at least 2 different timelines of the movies, Magneto has either sacrificed himself as a hero or stayed alive and regained his powers. Now, how does Magneto's tragic story connect to Wanda Maximoff and everything that is happening in Agatha all along? Like Magneto, Wanda's story is one of survival and acceptance. As a young child, she was subjected to experiments at Hydra, just as Magneto was. She also suffered abandonment by her parents as a child. And it would seem that just like Magneto, Wanda is always struggling between what she should do, even if it is considered morally wrong. But the most interesting thing about all this is that it is no coincidence that both characters share so many traits in their personalities, since the Scarlet Witch is Magneto's daughter in several timelines. And this is where we begin to merge the stories. When Wanda Maximoff altered reality to create her children in Westview, we also saw a version of Quicksilver from the Fox universe alongside Wanda. This version of Quicksilver also didn't live with his father in the X-Men movie. It would seem that Wanda took people from other realities to create Westview, and this is where this story starts to make sense. We know that Wanda has always wanted to have a family, and that she has tried to create her children. The creation of Billy and Tommy is no coincidence, as Billy and Tommy have existed in other Marvel universes. Likewise, if Wanda creates her brother, she will always create Quicksilver. And as we have mentioned in other videos, Wanda does not have the ability to create things. She can only modify or alter probabilities. When Wanda created her children, she actually used the energy of the universe to bring them into existence. Therefore, if Wanda wishes to bring her own parents to life, she would not be bringing back her real parents, but would be bringing another version of Wanda's parents from another universe. And if this is the case, it could be the way to unite Wanda with Magneto, since Magneto is Wanda's father in other universes. Now we know that the universe reboot caused by Loki brought many universes to collide. And now we don't know for sure what the future will be beyond Secret Wars, or the fight against Dr. Doom. But what is clear is that if Magneto does come to this universe, he has too many similar qualities with Wanda and could be a great ally. Thanos, despite being portrayed as the villain in Infinity War and Endgame, is a complex character with deep and often ambiguous motivations. His goal, as he explains it, is to ensure the survival of the universe by eliminating half of its population. This idea arises after seeing how his home planet, Titan, was destroyed by overpopulation and resource depletion. Although his methods are undoubtedly cruel and his vision is problematic, his ultimate goal is not selfish. In fact, he is willing to sacrifice everything to achieve it, including his own daughter, Gamora. Although Thanos was eventually defeated by the Avengers, we know that other versions of the Mad Titan exist in different universes. Just as we are seeing a new version of Dr. Doom with the same face as Iron Man, it is likely that other versions of Thanos also exist in that universe. We still don't know for sure what the origin universe of the new Dr. Doom will be, but everything points to it being the same universe as the Fantastic Four, and that we will begin to see events where the universes will start to collide. In Marvel's Secret Wars comics, an event occurs that brings multiple universes into a struggle for survival, where each world fights to not be eliminated in the collapse of the multiverse. This new version of Dr. Doom, who in his universe could be a variant of Tony Stark, discovers that the 616 universe, the home of the Avengers, could be responsible for the destruction of his own world, or is on his way to being so. This leads him to make a drastic decision, not only to stop the Avengers, but to eliminate the threat from his universe and other universes. But what if this Doom is not the typical villain? Perhaps, in his universe, he is seen as the necessary hero, someone willing to make any sacrifice to protect his people and his reality, even if that means taking on other heroes. We would be seeing a fascinating conflict here where Doom is not a villain in the classic sense, but a protector of his world, in the style of an anti-hero who justifies his actions for the greater good. And of course, it wouldn't be the first time Marvel shows us how a hero can become a villain, when his decisions lead to a point of no return. In this story, we could see how the concept of hero and villain becomes relative, and how a character like Doom, from his perspective, sees the Avengers as the real threat that must be eliminated to save his world. However, The destruction of other universes will lead this Doctor Doom to become a great cosmic threat. And obviously, he will attract the attention of characters like Thanos, who in that universe is still alive. Let's remember that in the universe where Doctor Doom is, as far as we know, the Avengers do not exist and have not faced Thanos. This means it is possible that this version of Thanos realizes that Doom is destroying universes and disagrees and decides to join the new Avengers. For a long time, there has been speculation about how a new Avengers team could be formed, especially now that the team has lost much of its strength over time. Perhaps we're already seeing the first hints in the Deadpool movie, where the darker Wolverine teams up with the more dangerous Deadpool. Maybe what we need is a team made up of the worst versions of our favorite heroes from each universe. A group that through their sacrifice can redeem themselves and transform from the worst Avengers into the best.
This Wolverine let down his entire world.
If these new Avengers are the darkest versions of themselves, we could say that the Scarlet Witch of the Marvel Universe is the worst version of herself. Not only did she end the lives of civilians, but she also threatened the existence of her own teammates and multiple universes. This version of Wanda could represent the Scarlet Witch at her darkest. One that over time becomes the heroine that is really needed in this new Avengers team. So we could see the darker versions of the Avengers take on the worst version of Tony Stark. A pretty dark ending, but maybe that's the reboot this universe needs. And this is where Thanos could play a pivotal role in this story. Not the version of Thanos we saw in Endgame, but his best version, a scientist determined to protect all universes. This would lead us to a confrontation that would change everything, where the Avengers, along with Thanos, face a version of Tony Stark capable of endangering the existence of the entire Marvel Universe. According to the latest news, we know that Marvel is currently planning to close the Multiverse saga to move on to new stages of production. But a rematch between Tony and Thanos, even if they are different versions in different universes, could be something all of us fans are waiting for. Perhaps, instead of that iconic scene where Tony sacrifices himself by saying, "I am Iron Man," we could see Thanos saying, "I am Thanos," as he ends Doctor Doom's life. If this does happen, remember where you heard it first. Now, if we are really going to see the worst version of each of the Avengers united to fight Doctor Doom, this begs the question: what kind of Captain America could be considered the worst? What sacrifices will have scarred him? Perhaps we will see a Steve Rogers who made shady decisions and lost his sense of justice along the way. And how about a Doctor Strange who, like in the Multiverse of Madness, lost everything in his quest for power by joining this dark team as well? We know that the next series in development for Disney Plus is Vision Quest. And rumors indicate that we could see a Vision dominated by Ultron, turned into the darkest version of himself. This Vision, stripped of his will and under the total control of Ultron, would be an unprecedented threat, carrying out orders without any empathy or morals. Still, there is a chance that this Vision may regain a trace of his humanity, perhaps thanks to his son Billy, who could help him find his way back to good. However, even with his redemption, it is likely that no Avengers team would be willing to accept him, due to his background as a weapon of destruction. In the end, Vision might find his place solely in a team of anti-Avengers, where the worst versions of the multiverse's heroes also seek redemption, each carrying their own demons, united to face a greater threat. The most dangerous version of Doctor Doom, an alternate Tony Stark who represents everything dark and destructive about a hero who was once the symbol of Marvel. This Stark, turned into the worst villain the universe has ever seen, would embody the flip side of everything the Avengers stood for, leading them to fight the most important battle in existence. Perhaps all of these Avengers will have to sacrifice everything to redeem themselves and make amends for the mistakes of their past. Now, in the comics, Doctor Doom ended the life of Thanos by taking the skeleton of his body being one of the most shocking scenes. And if this happens with that version of Tony Stark, perhaps it will show how powerful this Doctor Doom is. A doctor capable of ending a Thanos so easily, it would bring any universe to its knees. First, we must establish which of all the Loki versions I'm talking about. Because even within the Marvel shared universe itself, there are several versions of the God of Mischief. The version we are talking about is the Loki we saw in the Disney Plus series, and who in the end became a cosmic entity that protects the multiverse. This Loki never lost his life at the hands of Thanos, but managed to sacrifice himself for the multiverse. Loki's ending left many people really wondering what happened to this character, as we saw him from a throne touching several timelines. It would seem that Loki now has the powers of a god. However, this final shot could be somewhat symbolic. To understand what I mean, we must go back to the end of this series.
Stop.
Loki had gained the ability to time travel, and traveled all the way to his confrontation with He Who Remains, where he learned that he was always destined for this confrontation and purpose. However, at the end of the story, Loki destroys the artifact that kept the sacred timeline under control, and he himself began to control the timelines. I think what this scene refers to is not that Loki literally sits with his hands outstretched all the time. I think what this image refers to is that Loki is now a sort of cosmic entity that travels between timelines, correcting different problems to prevent the collapse of reality. Now, reality itself depends on Loki. Perhaps the ending of the series is not so literal, but somewhat more metaphorical. Now, what does this interpretation have to do with Agatha and everything that is happening with magic in the Marvel Universe? In the ending of Agatha all along, we could see how Death came looking for Billy. Death is an entity that seeks balance.
He is an abomination. He is disrupting the sacred balance.
And it is the first of many fundamental entities in the universe that we will see in the future. Just as the entity of death exists to maintain balance elsewhere in existence, Loki is keeping the flow of time in order. It is possible that Rio or Death, like Loki, was once a person who became this cosmic entity, now seeking balance by retrieving the souls of lost people. Even Death might have some connection to the magic of chaos and the upcoming war. Perhaps we should not see Death as such a magical character. Perhaps like Loki, she too sacrificed herself to save her universe. But then, how could Loki return? Just as Billy Maximoff's existence was what caught Death's attention, as an imbalance was occurring in the cosmos, something would have to happen through time to get the attention of this cosmic version of Loki. And I think the answer is obvious: Doctor Doom. I believe that when Doom begins to destroy part of the multiverse, it will be at that point that the cosmic Loki, or the new He Who Remains, will realize that he needs help and will create a new version of the Avengers. Ones who are willing to do whatever it takes in order to defeat Doctor Doom. In previous videos, we have mentioned how the Disney Plus series and movies are slowly introducing the new generation of Avengers, some of whom are often antagonistic in nature, like Wiccan, who stole his body to come back to life, or even Agatha, who is now a ghost, and will surely be looking for a new body. I think the new Avengers, those that Loki will choose to take on Doctor Doom, could include the Wiccan we saw in the Agatha series alongside Agatha, the Vision we will see in the Vision Quest series, the Deadpool and Wolverine we saw in the last Deadpool movie, and other characters who also lost their way in their story and became villains, such as Wanda Maximoff. However, these characters will return to be heroes once again to save the multiverse under the leadership of Loki. Or at least this is one of the theories. I think the next Avengers will be those who failed their universes, but will have to vindicate themselves. In the comics, an event occurs in which different universes clash, while Doctor Doom tries to save his own universe and increase his power. This event is known as Secret Wars, and it's where the future of Marvel is headed. I believe that Avengers from different universes will have to unite to face the greatest threat that existence has ever faced. Yes, just like in the comics, Doctor Doom is trying to destroy other realities. and that would lead to this cosmic Loki attempting to interfere. I don't think he would just stand by as a bystander while there is a person destroying the balance of existence itself. Now, this version of Loki could team up with the new Avengers or even his own brother to defeat Doom. It's a very different Loki, a heroic version of what the Loki who lost his life in Endgame could have become. And I think it's a person Thor needs to meet. It's a mature Loki who understands the importance of his family and who has lost everything to maintain everyone's existence. The reunion of a Thor with near-cosmic power with his brother, who is now the god of time, could be what it takes to defeat Dr. Doom. So when could we see this version of Loki back? I think it's possible that we might see him in a cameo in one of the next movies, such as the upcoming Captain America movie, A Brave New World, with this Loki being the one to start recruiting the new Avengers. This would be something that would point to a really big danger approaching. The Captain America movie could show us at the end how Loki becomes aware of some incursions into universes and how he needs Avengers powerful enough to help him. Maybe Loki could be a new Nick Fury, who came out at the end of all the movies recruiting the new Avengers. To talk about the Red Hulk, we must first understand the origin of the powers of this type of soldier. In 1943, a project called Rebirth was created where the super soldier serum would be administered. As a result of this project, Captain America was born. Steve Rogers was a short guy without much physical strength, so when the serum transformed him into the powerful Captain America, the government understood that developing this formula could give them an incredible advantage over other nations. If Dr. Abraham Erskine had managed to finish his work, it would have meant the creation of thousands or perhaps millions of people as strong as Steve Rogers. But a spy ended the doctor's life before he could share the formula with anyone else. The potential of the serum in Captain America impressed the government so much that they would not stop until they tried to replicate it. And this endeavor is what led to so many mutations and experiments in various universes. In their effort to recreate the perfect soldier that was Captain America, they ended up creating characters like the Hulk and the Red Hulk, who are the result of projects that tried to copy the super soldier's serum. After some attacks in the United States, the government ordered the serum to be replicated once again in another attempt to create a new version of Captain America. This time, General Thaddeus Ross would lead the project known as Project Gamma Pulse, which would eventually give rise to the Hulk. Bruce Banner was one of the scientists in these experiments, but the true nature of the project was never revealed to him, in part because Bruce was the boyfriend of General Ross's daughter. However, while Bruce Banner became an Avenger, his boss and former father-in-law, Thaddeus Ross, was doing everything he could to maintain the security of his nation and imprison Bruce. Ross began pushing for a treaty to reveal the identity of the superheroes, the Sokovia Treaties. After an accident caused by the Scarlet Witch, these treaties led to the Avengers being pitted against each other in civil war. Because of Thaddeus Ross, the Avengers were divided at the time Thanos attacked, resulting in the defeat of not only them, but the destruction of half the life in the universe. Thaddeus has been behind the attempts to control the Avengers from the beginning. Since his daughter was Banner's girlfriend, he developed a deep hatred for this green creature. It is ironic that he ends up becoming the Red Hulk. The next member of the Hulk family we have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is She-Hulk, a lawyer who is Bruce's cousin, and after an accident, was also affected by the Hulk's abilities. This female version is not as chaotic as her cousin, and has better control of her powers. However, she is not serving the government in the way that other Avengers had done. In fact, she seems to have no desire to be a superhero. Before delving into the Red Hulk, it is important to mention William Hurt, who played General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, from The Incredible Hulk in 2008 to Black Widow in 2021. Sadly, Hurt passed away on March 13, 2022 at the age of 71. After his death, Ross's role was assumed by Harrison Ford, who will make his debut in Captain America: Brave New World, scheduled for release on February 14th, 2025. Now, the last time we heard about this character, he was at Tony Stark's wake, after they reversed the effects of Thanos. His character was among the Mad Titan's victims, but Tony Stark brought him back to life. This is something that will possibly lead him to rethink the opinion he had of the Avengers, as he used to see them as enemies, but now sees the usefulness in them. The Avengers were not only necessary to save the world, but they managed to save the multiverse. After the events of Endgame, this character becomes the President of the United States and restarts the Super Soldier Serum project. This is where the story of the new Captain America comes in. As always, this man, while wanting to keep the peace and security of his country, also seeks to control the Avengers and wants the position of Captain America to be something more governmental. The fight between the Red Hulk and the new Captain America, shown in the most recent trailer for Captain America: Brave New World, reveals that Thaddeus Ross will eventually become the Red Hulk. This character will have one of the biggest character and villain developments in the Marvel Universe. He will go from being a soldier experimenting, who caused the creation of the Hulk and the splitting of the Avengers when Thanos attacked, to transforming into the Red Hulk, a creature that threatens the entire world. Unlike the Green Hulk, who gets stronger the angrier he gets, the Red Hulk has very different mechanics. When the Red Hulk becomes enraged, instead of gaining unlimited strength, his body begins to brutally overheat, reaching sky-high temperatures. This overheating gives him incredible power in the short term. But like a fanless computer, he runs the risk of burning out and losing strength after his most intense attacks. But which of the two Hulks is more powerful? In the comics, Bruce Banner's Green Hulk grows into an almost cosmic entity with seemingly limitless strength. However, in the MCU, Banner has ended up being only a shadow of his former self, surpassed even by She-Hulk, who managed to control his powers from day one. While the Hulk has captured the public's attention in his movies, he hasn't had the impact that Marvel wanted, and that's where the story of the comics and the movies begins to separate. I think the Red Hulk is the opportunity Marvel has been waiting for to show us a darker, more complex version of the Hulk. A version that could perhaps take on Dr. Doom and be part of an Avengers team with a much darker edge. In the past, we've talked about the darker versions of the Avengers, such as Wolverine, who left his teammates to die, the Scarlet Witch, who became a villain, and other dark Avengers. They could team up to take on Dr. Doom. And it seems that the Green Hulk or She-Hulk are not up to the level of taking on a cosmic threat. But the Red Hulk? Perhaps he is. Dr. Doom is the next great villain in this universe. And he will be one that will bring all universes on their knees. The heroes who assemble to face him will not only have to be the most powerful, but also the most strategic. Will Storm be the Avenger who will face Dr. Doom? One of the characters we hope to see joining the Avengers in this new stage of Marvel is Storm, one of the most powerful mutants of the X-Men. This mutant could be key in the fight against a version of Dr. Doom who wants to destroy the multiverse. In the last few hours, the trailer for the third season of What If showed us a version of Storm carrying Thor's hammer. A version that, although is not the same as the one we saw in the Fox movies, could be the one who accompanies the Avengers to face Dr. Doom. To understand this, we must first know the story of Storm. Born Aurora Monroe, Storm is a mutant with the ability to control the weather. She is considered one of the most powerful mutants, although in the Fox Universe movies we never saw her using her full potential. The case of Storm is similar to that of Wolverine. Their big screen versions fell short of their comic book counterparts. This is partly because many characters Storm interacts with, or faces in her stories, were not part of the Fox universe. Now that Storm is coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, she will begin to get more of a starring role. and we're already seeing it in these previews. Storm's story begins in Cairo, Egypt, where an accident left her an orphan, and she had to make a living as a criminal on the streets. What Storm didn't know, however, is that her abilities as a mutant were not a divine gift or mere chance. Her mother belonged to the Uzuri tribe of Africa, a mystical place full of mysteries that became a kind of temple of worship for Storm. When Storm thought she would be some kind of queen in Africa away from the rest of the world, she meets Professor X, who tells her that she not only can, but must use her powers for good. What good would it do to have the abilities of a god if you can't help other people or those who trust you? Storm sees the X-Men as an opportunity to not only meet the world and prove she deserves respect, but she also sees them as family, similar to what happened with the Scarlet Witch and the Avengers. The X-Men became that surrogate family for Storm, which also benefited Xavier, as her abilities as a mutant can stand up to other powerful mutants. In fact, she has an Omega level rating in dangerousness, something we'll talk about soon. Storm becomes not only a great ally, but also a teacher and recruiter of other X-Men. We can say that she is one of the most important pillars of the Marvel Multiverse. Now, we can't talk about how powerful Storm is without describing her powers in detail. She can create storms, hurricanes, lightning, and change the temperature. In addition, she can handle humidity, form fog or thunderstorms, and even fly using wind currents that she creates herself. Her ability is so precise that she can adjust the pressure in someone's lungs, cause pain, or become almost invisible using the moisture in the air. Aside from the weather, her lineage gives her magical potential and connects her to ancestors who practice magic, although she has not yet developed those skills to the fullest. She is also an expert in combat and stealth techniques. She learned to be a thief in her youth and has defeated strong opponents such as Callisto and Crimson Commando. In addition, she resists extreme temperatures and is almost invulnerable to psychic attacks. And this is where we begin to see her importance for a new generation of Avengers, as Avengers usually face threats through technology. It was thanks to Tony Stark and his inventions that they were able to time travel and reverse the effects of what Thanos did in the past. But the new phase of Marvel, with the arrival of Agatha the Ghost, Wiccan, and the return of the Scarlet Witch, it seems that now Marvel is taking a much darker and magical angle. And one of the most experienced mutants and immune to this type of attacks would be very valuable in this war. Now, in previous videos, we have talked about how the new generation of Avengers that will take on Dr. Doom will not be the simple Avengers of the 616 universe, but we will see a multi-dimensional fight. Just as Wolverine teamed up with Deadpool, it is possible that another version of Storm will also join the Avengers. However, before the release of Secret Wars, we won't have any X-Men movies, which leaves us with the possibility that we will see these characters being introduced in other series or movies before Secret Wars. And I think it's no coincidence that we see Storm Thor in the trailers. In the latest What If trailer, we got to see how it concludes with Storm taking Thor's hammer, proving not only that she is worthy, but possibly the most powerful version of Storm ever. An Omega mutant who also has the powers of the God of Thunder. In the comics, the version of Storm known as Skybreaker, who carries the hammer, possesses the abilities of a cosmic entity as powerful as the best version of Thor we've seen in the movies. This means the odds are very high that this version of Storm will be the one we see in Secret Wars. It is possible that this Storm with the hammer arrives to fight Dr. Doom. And What If could just be the basis to show us the collision between worlds. Since in the end, each What If represents a universe, and these universes are about to collide. Perhaps Storm will be the Omega mutant who can finally stand up to the Scarlet Witch or Dr. Doom himself, and stop the destruction of the multiverse. Perhaps in the end, the fate of all realities will once again fall on the shoulders of an orphaned woman. But this time, instead of a witch ready to unleash chaos across universes, it will be a mutant who will intervene to stop what is about to happen. perhaps by joining the Avengers to prevent Dr. Doom's conquest. Rumor has it that Scarlet Witch and Dr. Doom could join forces, sparking major anticipation among fans. The scoop came from Alex Perez in a Q&A with the Cosmic Circus, where he hinted that this partnership would delve into Scarlet Witch's journey for redemption. Following her controversial use of the Darkhold, Wanda appears determined to make amends, and teaming up with Dr. Doom could be central to this storyline. Elise asks, "Hey Alex, any surprise team-ups pairings you're hearing for Avengers? Doomsday?" Alex Perez replies, "I'm going to let you in on a pairing I've heard rumored for a while now, and it's made its way already on social media, but there is credence to the rumor of the Scarlet Witch being paired up with Dr. Doom for Doomsday." But what does this mean? How will the Scarlet Witch team up with the villain? Will she no longer return to the Avengers? Perhaps the answer as to where the Scarlet Witch's story is headed could be found in her own journey from villain to heroine, only to then become a villain again. To understand how the Scarlet Witch went from seemingly losing her life in some ruins in the multiverse of madness alongside Doctor Strange, to becoming one of Dr. Doom's allies, we must first remember Wanda's role in the Marvel Universe, or at least her ultimate position in the story. After some time fighting alongside the Avengers, Wanda develops a romantic attraction to the android Vision. She sees in him the hope of having a family, and begins to dream of a life away from the war. However, Thanos needs the stone that Vision has in his forehead, which brings us to the events of Infinity War. In an act of sacrifice, Vision asks Wanda to destroy the stone, which would also mean his end. This Mind Stone was the last piece Thanos needed to complete his goal. Although Wanda destroys the stone in Vision, Thanos turns back time, revives Vision and retrieves the stone. The lifeless body of Vision is one of the most traumatic scenes for Wanda. Since Vision's death, we could say it was only a matter of time before the villain in Wanda returned. We got to see how Wanda confronted Thanos and how she helped the Avengers restore order, but Vision was unable to return as she wished. This led her to a mental breakdown. This is where Wanda moves to Westview and where she begins to show herself as a villain, controlling the minds of all the people in this town, just to try to have a perfect life with Vision, ignoring everything that was going on outside, and also ignoring the wishes of the people who were in this town. Wanda stole their free will and subjected them to play a role in this collective delusion that she herself created. In this place, Wanda created imaginary children, brought back a supposed brother, and we even saw Vision with her. Wanda's delusion took her away from who she once was as an Avenger, and she would never return to that path. After the confrontation with Agatha, Wanda reaches her peak of power in the story and takes a book that begins to corrupt her, the Darkhold. It took what little heroine was left of her and drove her down a path she would never return from, using magical powers to travel between realities, to steal the lives of other versions of herself. Wanda wanted to have children. Maybe her intentions were not all bad, but many civilian people lost their lives because of her. And not only civilians, even heroes from other timelines, as was the leader of the Fantastic Four. Wanda became the worst version of herself. But in the end, she supposedly sacrificed her life to destroy the Darkhold. However, as I have always mentioned in relation to Wanda, there is an unwritten law in superhero movies. If you don't see the character die on screen, it means she's not dead. Wanda is one of the most powerful characters in this universe, and they will never end her life off screen. And the fact that she's already being mentioned in these articles and news stories is evidence that it's only a matter of time before we see her return. It could even point to Dr. Doom being the one who saved her in the temple. When she supposedly dies, you can see energy effects. Maybe it wasn't Chaos's own energy that we saw, but it was energy from Doom rescuing the Scarlet Witch. Now, what is the path for Scarlet Witch? Why would she team up with Dr. Doom? In the rumors, it has also been mentioned that the witch is trying to reverse the effects of the Darkhold on the universes. It is possible that when she destroyed the Darkhold, she not only ended the book, but caused a crisis in the multiverse that eventually caused the battles between the universes where Doom wishes to win. I believe that the actions of the Scarlet Witch directly affected Doom's universe, and perhaps Doom rescued the Scarlet Witch just before she lost her life, to help him not only destroy the enemy universes, but to create a single reality. If this is the case, this means that Wiccan and Agatha would fight against Wanda, and that Wanda, once again, would be on the side of the villains of the story, but this time with a familiar face. The new Doctor Doom will be played by Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, who once convinced the Scarlet Witch to join the Avengers. Perhaps his evil version, this Doctor Doom, will be convincing enough to bring the Scarlet Witch into his ranks. But tell me, what do you think about all this? Does the Scarlet Witch really see Doctor Doom as a hero of the multiverse? Did Doctor Doom really save Wanda? Let me know what you think in the comments. And for more videos of your favorite series and movies, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You are on The Oasis Geek.